Hi everyone, back from the Emirates Stadium for another video with you guys, and today I want to talk with you about youth players, because for a lot of agents the entry into the business goes over youth players for yourself. So you will probably approach a youth player, and I want to give you some information about how the best way is to do it. So first of all, I want to talk to you about how to approach a youth player. This is number one. The second part is how to manage a youth player. Third part is how to transfer or move a youth player. And finally, the number four is how to make money when you work for youth players. So let's start with number one, approaching a youth player. A youth player is a player under 18. So we have strict regulations, not just in England, all over the world. If a player is under 18, you can't really transfer a player, but I will come more to that later on. More important is, if the player turns 16 in the year, then you can approach a player. So the year when the player is turning 16, that's the time when you can go and approach this player. But be careful, you can just approach the player through the parents. Yeah, even the player is 16, turns 16, so you can't directly contact the player. So the protection of minors is very important, and you always have to keep it in your mind. So to be ethical and to be worked under the regulations, is very important that you really follow the regulations. So therefore, if the player is above, when the player turns 16 and then you approach him, so a lot of agents doing that over social media. I'm telling you, never do this. Don't text someone over or Instagram or Facebook messages, hey, I'm this agent, I would like to meet you. That's not the right way. As I said, it's not allowed actually to contact directly the players, even not directly, not also over social media. The best way is through the parents. So how do you do that? So you know these youth players have the games. They play for under 17, under 18, under 19. So you go there, you watch them playing. So there you can see definitely a parent, either a mother, a father, a brother. So there will be family members. So you go to them and talk with them about yourself and what you can do for that player. So it's about you, what you can deliver to them. So that's number one. That's the way you approach them, through the parents. Remember that. So to be able to work as an agent, now in the United Kingdom, for example, you need to register yourself. Yeah? But if you're working with a minor who is 16 or 17, it's not enough that you register yourself. There will be a criminal background check on top. Yeah? When you pass this as well, then you can start working for the minor. Yeah? It's very important. So these two things, register yourself and the criminal background check, then you're able to work for minors. When you approach the player, one thing to keep in mind is never give the players or the family members money, watches, cars, whatever you can have in mind. This is a very bad way to approach players. A lot of agents, unfortunately, still do that. So they're trying to bind the player, so the family, with money. So they usually loan them money. They tell that it's not a gift. So therefore, I tell you, never do that. I always say, whoever comes to you with money definitely goes with money. So keep that always in mind. Who comes with money goes with money. So never do that. It's also very important if you approach a player. I think personally, always think about how is the education of the player. Maybe you can think about a scholarship for the player to go to America, right? There's also more options. You should also always create for the player more than one option. Football is not everything. So the player might be got injured one day, and so you should have options ready. Yeah? Don't see the football player just as something to make money out of it. Start really looking for other opportunities for the player. That will distinguish you, that makes you different from other agents. That's where you have to go. So sometimes I got in touch with players which are very good at school. So I do, for example, talk to universities in America to open them a second option in case over here it doesn't work. So they can go on a scholarship to America, they can study there and play in the soccer team at the university, and they can still start a career over there, but they have already a university education behind them. So it's perfect. So always have that in mind. It's not just football. How do you manage these players, the youth players? Because they're so young. They usually see you as a mentor, sometimes a bigger brother. So you have to understand that. To create this relationship, you will become a bridge between the player and the family. Yeah? The families are usually very emotional and subjective, and you're more objective. So you can be a good bridge and be the part which are missing in the relationship to get the best out of the player. So the player will always listen to you, so give him good advice about everything. You're really his mentor. To work with him mentally is one of the most important things. a youth player really needs to get pushed and get most out of himself. That means to get the confidence, to believe in himself. You need to push him and give him all the feeling that he's a top player and that he can deliver on the pitch. So the motivational part is very important. Don't underestimate that. To get the most out of the player, obviously you have to work and be in touch always with your player, but also with the family members. Try to find out what you and the family members together can do to get the best out of the player, but also with the people in the club, with the academy director or with his coach, trying to find out how can you make your player better. Yeah, that's your goal and that's your task, to make him better. Don't sit back and wait and say, oh, I signed this player, let's see what happens. Hopefully he will be coming to the first team very soon and I get cash out. That's not the way it works, yeah? You need to be better than all the other ones because you're getting into the business. So you have to work harder than anyone else. You have to be always there for the player and the family and for the guys at the academy, and on top for the guys at school, that you always be up to date and think about it. How can my boy get more A levels, for example? What can you do to deliver that? Let's go to part 3, transfer of minors, of youth players. How does that work? If the player is in the UK and goes from one club to another, there's no problem if he's 16 or 17. He can be transferred without any problem. Obviously, there might be a training compensation, need to be paid from club A to club B. But you should think about if your player is going to a club with a good academy. So there are different categories in England, for example. A category A club, for example, is Swansea, yeah? Even in the championship, but that club have a really good academy category A. On the other side, for example, Crystal Palace has an academy category B, even there in the Premier League. So if your player is young and you want to think about that he gets the best out of it, sometimes think about where are the best facilities, where are the best coaches, where are the best, all these extras where your player get the most of it. And as well, don't just move your player because he's going to a bigger club or could be. Very important is when you do that within one country, the educational part, it's very important. If your player is 16 or 17 and there's an offer from outside UK, it works, but just under 3 circumstances. First of all, the club where he goes, they have to have a perfect academy, so they need to have a good academy. Secondly, they need to take care about the education of the player. And third, they need to have an accommodation for the player, right? All the 3 issues must be done. Otherwise, a player can't go to another club, yeah, in another country. If he moves in the European Union, included as to these European Union countries, Switzerland and Norway, even they're not European Union countries, but for this kind of things, they're included into that. So your player can go also to these countries. So this is one opportunity. And even from outside European Union to another country, yeah, generally it's not allowed. Let's say your player is 16 years old and he plays in River Plate or in Sao Paulo from South America, and he wants to come over to London because there's a football club in London interested. It doesn't work. Yeah, simple as that. But there's one exception. That means if, for example, the parents move to London, let's say the father is a doctor in Buenos Aires and the father gets a job now in London, so the father moves for his job. And if he's moving for his job with the family, with that boy who plays football in the academy over there, that boy can play then over here in the academy. But a lot of clubs use this as a model. So what they did then is they moved the family because they wanted the boy. They found for the family members a job in Europe. Then they moved them over here, and suddenly, what a coincidence, the son is a good football player too. So because of that, a lot of football clubs got really banned from they got a transfer ban and a lot of fines, like, so it's not allowed. So the only way to do is if there's really the parents get the job and the kids moves so he can play. So much for your player. You get your youth player, you are managing, let's say, for 1 year, and suddenly there's an opportunity to move him and he's got moved, let's say, to a big club within Europe or in England. So now you're thinking about, okay, what about my services? How much money will I get? All right. So generally we know the commission on the player side is 10% of the gross salary what the player is earning, 10% commission, let's say. But in this case, because it's a minor, you're not getting anything. So literally nothing. Because of the protection of the minor, agents are not allowed to get paid till the players are 18. So you literally do 2 years service and not getting paid for it. Yeah? That's the rule, that's the regulation, and that's what is right to protect the minors. Yeah. But what happens is the clubs and agents find a way around. Like in any other business, it happens in football as well. So what clubs are doing, if they really want a player, and 4 or 5 clubs want this player as well, so the player is very valuable and the agent knows that, right? And they offer the agent money to bring the player to that club, but the agent can't be paid. So they say, you know what, we give you a consultancy agreement. You're suddenly a consultant. Or, second option, you know what, you're a good scout. Why don't you become a scout of our club and we pay you per month 20,000, for example, which is 240,000 a year. Other option is, so I said as a consultant, you can become suddenly a scout, you get paid for being a scout, you never were a scout. Or the other option is, what also is done a lot of times, is that clubs might put an agent into another deal where the agent was never doing anything on the club side. Yeah? Because as you know, agents can work on the player's side or on the club side. And if the club couldn't pay the agent for that deal, the club is free to use that agent for any other deal for a player above 18 and can pay that agent whatever they want, right? So there's always ways around. But I'm telling you one thing, never ever get into that. Never ever do that. Just wait. Do hard work and it pays out. Don't think first how much money will you get for your young player from the club. Wait for the right moment, wait for the time. You will make on the long term much more money. Thanks guys.